So, NBA expansion, will this expansion help the league? And is it necessary? Um, I know it started off as rumors, but it's looking like it's going to become reality as the league is actively working towards adding two new teams, one in Seattle and one in Las Vegas, as their leading candidates. And those are both on the West Coast. Keep that in mind because we're going to circle back to that. There's currently 30 teams in the NBA, and they're going to be making a formal decision very soon. Like we'll hear about it probably towards the end of the season. But the owners will be preparing to vote on whether to move forward. In my opinion, since they're already talking about it as a certainty, I think the vote is going to go exactly how we think it's going to go, and they're going to have the expansion. It's probably just a matter of what markets they're going to expand into. Um, and this would happen in the 28 and 29 season is when they'll introduce these two new teams. So I want to break it down from a business standpoint. I want to talk about it from a player standpoint and then from a fan standpoint. So from a business standpoint, the expansion fees are projected to be between $7 to $10 billion per team, which means obviously the current owners would benefit financially extremely. Like they're going to benefit from this expansion revenue wise, right? And we already know that more new markets bring more fans, more places to watch on the television, and more sponsorship opportunities in these markets, especially Las Vegas. And with the gambling, oh my gosh, I'm a little concerned, but hey. Now from a player perspective, oh, and also a basketball perspective, obviously. But I think this is when it gets complicated because they're obviously going to have to redistribute the talent, because if you put two new teams in the West, that means you might have to take teams that were already in the West and move them to the East. And you might have already seen reports of them talking about doing that to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Memphis Grizzlies. And so if you take two West teams, and we already know the narrative about how the West is extremely more talented and better or harder and more competitive than the East. So you take those two teams, and irregardless of the two teams and how well they do or don't do this season or in the past seasons, I think it's still a big deal that they're taking from the West and going to move it to the East, because that's just going to change everything in narratives on the East. It's going to push some players out who've been teetering in the play-in. Like, I think it's going to just redefine what the East looks like and the talent as a whole. So that's one part that I've been thinking about and looking at. But then the other part with the players and the impact it could have on them, I saw reports they were saying that their revenue share could decrease and take a hit. So I think it's really interesting that even though it's going to bring billions more, it's the owners that are going to see more of a benefit than the actual players, because they're like, I think their revenue share is like, some of them are at like 50% or something. I seen it's going to drop like 3% in certain capacities, and I'm just like, I'm curious to see how the NBA players feel about this, and I'm going to be watching the media closely because I know they already make a whole bunch of money, but I don't know how these guys are going to feel about losing money because of this expansion. I'm really curious to see. I just think and this goes back to my lower third question, will this expansion help the league and is it necessary? I think let's look at the second part of the question about is it necessary, because we know that the entertainment aspect of the league has declined. I've heard a lot of people talk about how the NBA isn't fun to watch anymore. Like, it's just not the same. I always hear it's just not the same. It's not the same. And I'm curious if expanding into different markets is gonna like maybe refresh. Like, is this an attempt to I don't know, like switch it up, because maybe like they've been stagnant for so long. I know that Adam Silver wants to go global and expand globally and bring in and combine and partner with teams overseas, but in the domestic standpoint expansion, I'm just curious, is it only economically beneficial to expand, or is this really going to add something to the game? And also it might change the schedule too, because if you add two more teams and you still keep it at 82 games, this might help balance out the load management. So I can see it maybe from that point perspective. It's definitely going to change the free agency pool, similar to the women. Like when these players are up for grabs, they got to build these teams from scratch and their rosters from scratch. And so I think it's definitely going to change some things. How much of an impact will these changes have? How long term or short term would they be? And that's what makes me question who's at the helm of these organizations. So you want to expand the teams. I'm not saying it's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that this change could hurt it, but I'm also not really seeing how it's beneficial for me as a fan. For me, it's like, maybe because it's not like a team's coming to Baltimore. I feel like maybe I'd be more excited about that. But it's going to Seattle and Las Vegas. Like to me, even the markets that they chose themselves, maybe Seattle deserves it because they used to have a team, or maybe they've been waiting all this time. But the Las Vegas one, it just seems very greedy and money driven. And that's where I get upset because I love the game of basketball. I love the game, bro. And like, I just hope that these changes that they're making are genuine to the experience of the fans and the game of basketball, not for money. Because if you make money your motivation, we're going to continue to see what we're seeing now, which is why I think some guys I've lost respect for in the league, because it seems like they're just there to get the check and the fame and the glitz and the glamour, and they're not really there to work hard, to put the real work in. And so that type of behavior is being enabled by the behaviors of the owners and the leadership of the league, because they have the same mindset, just not in the same way. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? So I just think I'm not concerned for the league. I obviously I'm concerned for it, but I'm eyeing this expansion, and I'm not going to sit here and celebrate it immediately until I see positive impacts to the actual game and to the players, and their behaviors change and the attitudes change across the league. We need a pick me up, and an NBA expansion, is that going to do it? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see it.